Hi, my name is James. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'd like to share with you a new segment that I'm starting up. In this segment, I'll be sharing short parts of my stories or short stories in hopes that you give me some feedback into how they are, whether you'd like to read them, or how they can be improved. The one that I'm showing today, entitled Honey Eyes, is not finished, so it's still a work in progress. And yeah, if you give me any feedback that you could provide me with, it would be deeply appreciated. Instead of giving you a full-on backstory, I'm just going to give you two bits of information. It's it's taken place within Nigeria, and it incorporates parts of the Yoruba language. Mainly focusing on the parents' names. The father is called Baba because within the Yoruba language that means father, and for the same reason, the mother is called Iya because within the language, Iya means mother. And without any further introduction, I hope you enjoy.
Honey Eyes by James Reed. Chapter 1 Ear. His eyes are unlike any of my other children's. Chibuna is the firstborn. I didn't know what my babies would look like until I had him, but I do thank God that none of them have those eyes. They're unlike any I've seen before, big and golden. In the right light, they almost look like they've been filled with honey. If one described them to someone who had never seen my son before, you wouldn't believe a black man could have such eyes. When you see him in person, you can also see that they suit him well. When other mothers heard of my child's golden eyes, they would come to my house to visit, to see him, to stare at him. At first, I was sure that they made him too different, too special, that he'd be bullied, that this was a curse instead of the blessing that others thought it was. I prayed for hours for God to cure my baby from the evil spirit that had cursed him, but my prayers alone weren't enough. I took him to our priest so that he may save my son's soul, but he assured me that my baby was under God's protection. After he christened him, I did feel better for a while, but it didn't last. How could his Baba and I have had a child with such beautiful eyes? Those are a white man's eyes. His Baba thought so too. I thought it would destroy our marriage, but his Baba managed to do that all on his own. Forget that I've given him 7 children and the better part of my life. He doesn't bother to help raise them, not even one. He's such a useless man. It's his fault that I'm in this mess. There's too many of them. I need help. I need money. Food doesn't put itself on the table. With those pretty eyes, you'd think it'd also be healthy, be useful, but Chibuna has always been weak. By the time my brothers were his age, they were already helping our parents in the fields or traveling to the city to get money where they could. They provided for us, and Chibuna will have to too. He's too old to be sitting here, a useless child. Pretty eyes aren't going to feed us and clothe his brothers and sisters. I'd rather my son be the ugliest man in the world and be strong than have those honey-colored eyes and a weak body. Maybe that's why I've always felt such a horrible presence when I look into them. Where others see beauty, all I've ever seen is shame. His eyes, they judge me. Shibuno knew I'd fail him, that I wouldn't be able to be the ear he wanted me to be. But don't all ears fail their firstborns? Are firstborns not trial runs for the rest who follow? Show me one parent who claims they haven't abandoned their first child, haven't felt something off about them, a distance that no amount of hugs, kisses, or fake grit that I love you screech from out the pit of lies a parent's mouth becomes can fix. The truth is that there's something about Chibuna that has always carved a line between us, a bond that never formed. Perhaps it was for the best. Maybe God knew I'd have to give him away in order to help the others, one life to help save 7 others. Chibuna. Iya told me I was saving our family. There are too many mouths to feed, not enough beds, not enough clothes, and with no work to be found for a skinny boy like me. What was she to do? What choice did she have? As the oldest of 7, and with Baba nowhere to be found, she had to lighten the load. I'm not angry or sad. I failed her as a son. As the man of the house, I could not provide. I can't help her or my siblings, but this will. Look up, be proud, hold your head high, Chibuna. These are the last words she says to me as the man pushes down our door. It's only a thin sheet of metal, but most people move it to the side. But not this man. He has no respect for what's ours. Are all men like this? Treating women and ears like this? Are they supposed to? Will I grow up to be a man like him? Like Baba? He looks me up and down. This must be what the chickens feel like when Ear's picking the fattest one to kill. Is it wrong that I wanted him to refuse? To say that he is too small, too skinny to buy? I want to stay, but I also want to help Iya. I don't want to cause her more pain, as Baba has already created so much. When my siblings have all been rocked to sleep by Iya, I alone see her outside, praying to God for a better life, crying because he hasn't given it to her. I can't watch this anymore. I've seen it too many times. It hurts to see her do it, to see her on her knees, begging and crying so I don't trouble the man. I don't tell Ia how much I want to stay with her, be by her side, how I wish to see my siblings grow big and healthy even though I won't. All I can do is hope Ia gets around 200,000 naira for me. That will last a while around here. Maybe even allow some of my siblings to go to school. I don't hear what they agree upon as Ia sends me outside. Waiting is all I can do, all I ever do. It takes some time. I hear Ia shouting, haggling for my worth. The man disagrees, but finally, they must come to an agreement. I want to say goodbye, to apologize for being a worthless son, but neither of them let me. Ia didn't leave the walls of her house. I could see her sitting on her wooden stool. She must have known I was there, staring at her mix the cassava and plantain flour with water. She had to be making fufu. My siblings would eat well tonight. I love Ia's fufu. I love her. I want her to look at me. I want to see her eyes, but she never looks me in the eyes. She never has. She turns away, sometimes looks up at the sky or down at her toes. Other times she'll talk to me, but it feels like she's looking through me, as though I'm glass, like I'm not there. But I am. Would she miss me? Does she love me as I love her? I'd never noticed the man drags me by the cuff of my shirt and throws me in the back of his beat up Jeep Wrangler. I thought he'd tie me up, trying to hold me against my will, but he doesn't bother. We were driving for at least an hour. It felt like it. For most of the ride, we went unspoken. He focused on the road in front of him, whilst I looked at the road behind. I'd never been this far outside the village before. I hoped one day Baba would take me with him when he leaves for work in Koji or Abuja, but he never did. He said I wasn't strong enough for man's work, so I had to stay home with Ian until I was. The road to wherever we were going was bumpy, with so many holes that the man couldn't help but drive into them, cursing at the top of his lungs at what they were doing to his tires. Never before had I seen so many cars and trucks and vans so high that they made the trees look small. Most of the time we were stuck in traffic, with the man just cussing at everything he saw. And me. Everything made him angry. Whether it was another car, the sky changing faster than he thought, or the sun slowly setting upon the road. He cursed at the world. If it wasn't for this traffic though, I wouldn't have known where he was taking me, or where we were. The Kaduna Abuja road. Now I understand his anger. Baba warned me of this road, all the people waiting behind the neem and the baobab trees, waiting for your misfortune so that they can profit. Baba called it the most dangerous road in Nigeria. He said that all sorts of people, rich and poor alike, lost their lives on it. It doesn't care. All that it catches, it eats. Baba said it was like a wild boar. It never stopped eating, only getting fatter on the misfortune of others. It wasn't until the sun went down that I understood what Baba meant. Because of all the holes in the road, some cars got stuck or broken and had to go to the side. For help, I guess. But help doesn't come. Instead, men come from out the trees with machetes or guns in hand. Sometimes these men have cars of their own, sometimes they don't. Either way, you best pray to God that they don't catch you. Whilst on the Kaduna Bridge of roads, I saw this happen twice. The first time was with a small black car with only one man inside. He wasn't wearing a suit, and his car didn't look that nice, as far as cars go from what I've seen today. It was dirty, with different colored doors, and a large scrape across the side that had taken off some of the car's paint. But none of this mattered. When he had hit one of those holes in the ground, it did something to his tires, must have cut them, because his car began to drive weirdly, not like how cars should. But just as Baba said, after he pulled his car over to the side, it didn't take long for the group of men to surround him. At first I thought they wanted the car. I wondered why he didn't run away and leave the car, as his life is more important. But I misunderstood. What a fool. What an idiot, said the man who had bought me from Ia. What kind of idiot drives a car like that, on this kind of road? He should have known better. I wanted to ask what he meant, but I didn't have to. It wasn't the car they were after. No, it was the man. He mustn't have been able to run very fast because instead of trying to run away, he locked himself in his car. But it didn't matter as they bashed the glass in. When these men pulled him out, all I could hear was his muzzled screams. I didn't know a man could be this scared. could cry like this. Baba said crying was for children and women, but not for men. Men don't cry like this. But this man did. His screams were so loud that at least 20 cars, both behind and in front of us, must have heard him beg for his life. But no one stopped to help him. When I looked around at the faces of the other drivers, there was no shock. They didn't care. The honking of the cars didn't stop. The man driving the car I was in just watched and laughed until traffic began to move and we had driven out of sight. I didn't want to think of what had just happened. What had I just seen? What would happen to the man? Or what would happen to me? But the thoughts wouldn't stop. My mind couldn't stop thinking of him, of his cries for help. It didn't help that once we had stopped after getting into more traffic, the man driving the car tried to explain what I had just seen. The man we saw get taken? Do you know what will happen to him? Asked the man who bought me. Why was he talking to me now? Had I done something wrong? I didn't want him to be angry with me. If everything in the world makes him angry, how do I answer him without making him mad too? I don't know why they took the man, or what will happen to him, but I know it isn't good. In order not to anger the man who bought me or pretend like I know what I'm speaking about when I don't, I was honest. No, sir, I don't, I replied. Ha, sir, I like that. Those men are murderers, rapists, and most importantly, they're businessmen. They take foolish men like the one we saw who thinks he can cross this cursed road in a little crappy tin car and wait for it to break down. When those cars do, they go after the men inside. They're kidnappers, trying to hold a ransom for whoever they can catch. Rich, poor, it doesn't matter. As long as someone has family, they're willing to pay. And if they don't, what's one more body in the ground going to do? So you better behave. We both know nobody's coming for you. Not your barber, and definitely not your ear. After he said that, we sat in silence until the traffic let out and the cars began to move. I know my ear, and my barber. I know this had to be done to help my siblings. Ia didn't want to do this, but she had to. And Baba doesn't know this is happening. If he did, he would have stopped Ia. He would have been able to provide. I know he would have. I don't know if they love me as much as my other siblings. They don't look at me how they look at them. It's different. I wish they looked at me like that, but they don't. Still, they must love me, even if it's only a little. If she could save me, she would. At least, I think Ia would. The second time I saw a kidnapping, we were much closer to Abuja. According to the signs on the road, we were 30 minutes away. This time, the car that broke down didn't look old or dirty. Instead, it was a large black car. It didn't hit one of the holes in the ground like the previous car, but instead, red lights began to flash from out the back of it, and it pulled over to the side. As we were so close to Abuja, traffic wasn't as bad as it was before, so I didn't see what happened to them after we left. All I saw was another dirty truck pulling up beside the clean black car, and 5 men jumping from out of it. After that, we drove off. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what was going to happen to them. I didn't want to know. If they had screamed, I wouldn't have heard. I wouldn't allow myself to listen. I understand now why none of the cars stop or are interested in those that break down. It's better not to know, to pretend that you don't see men begging for their lives, crying and sobbing like children. If you don't know, you can't feel. You can tell yourself it didn't happen, or you don't know what happened because you don't. You didn't let yourself see because you didn't want to. Chapter 2. The Basement of Abuja. Speaking Chibuna. When we entered Abuja, my mind became numb. There were so many lights and tall buildings. Why were there this many people out at night? What could be so important that couldn't be done during the day? It was all so much. I didn't want to see it, and I wouldn't for long. The man driving the car didn't stop once when we entered the city. He sped down the narrow roads and took such sharp turns that I rolled over in my seat. I wasn't happy, but he was. He knew this place so well. I don't think he was looking at the road, at least not really. It felt like he was driving whilst blind, as though if one thing were out of place, it would throw him off entirely. Luckily for me, there wasn't. We ended up in some old part of the city where the buildings weren't so tall, the lights not at all bright, and the people barely anywhere to be seen. The man parked on the side of the road and jumped out of the car. His knees crackled as he stretched them on the pavement. He walked over to my side of the car and pulled the door open. Well, what are you waiting for? Get out of the fucking car, said the man, having to squeeze in more curse words. I wriggled out of the car, falling on my knees, as the car was too high for me to get down and my legs too numb to catch my fall. What are you doing? Fucking get up, said the man. But before I could, he was yanking me by the neck of my collar, strangling me in the process to get me on my feet. Children. I swear you're all fucking useless. No wonder your mother wanted to get rid of you. God damn. I couldn't say anything. I had to listen as he insulted Iya and Baba until we entered the building. Like the other buildings on the street, it was tall and made of brick, but it was old. The windows were broken, and graffiti was written inside and out. Metal pillars ran throughout it. There was no furniture or lights, so it was hard to see. The man led me to see the back of the building, where a staircase led to the basement. I didn't want to go down there. I didn't want to be placed in the dark, forgotten and alone. I hesitated before moving forward, not on purpose, not of my own free will, but out of fear. What the fuck are you doing? Did you listen to me before? You misbehave and we can go back to that highway, and we can see what those men who hide behind bushes decide to do with a scrawny boy like you, said the man, pushing me forward. I'd have fallen down the stairs if it wasn't for the cold metallic railing on either side. I gripped onto it as I tried to find each step leading me further down the stairs. It wasn't until I was halfway down that I noticed that the man wasn't following me. Instead, he was waiting at the top, watching me struggle to get down in the dark. Once I managed to get down, I realized I wasn't alone. The small dark room was filled with other boys. Some were lying on the floor, whilst others were standing. The first thing I noticed was the smell of poo and piss and sweat. There were no windows, only one entrance. At first, I thought they were all staring at me. It felt like some of them were going to charge. But it wasn't me who they were looking at. It was the stairs. To me, the whole room looked dark, but to them, it must have been different. Because as soon as I reached the basement, it sounded like a latch had closed and the room got darker than it already was. No longer could I see faces. I couldn't see my own hands, let alone someone else's. I tried to shuffle to get to a corner or a wall, anything to not be by the stairs or in the middle of the room where so many people were gathered. But I couldn't help bumping into them, stepping on others. One boy pushed me when I knocked into him, but I couldn't help it. I can't see. I only thank God that neither could he, so that he couldn't follow me or see who bumped into him. When I made it to a wall, I slid down, the brick cold against my back, making the heat in the room more bearable. Slumped down on the floor, I scrunched my knees up to my chest and rested my head on my knees. I tried to go to sleep, to escape this place, at least in my dreams, but it wouldn't let me. It trapped me here, wanted me to know where I was, and know that the place isn't good, not a safe place. How could you close your eyes and risk someone stepping on you or falling on you? No, you had to stay awake, even if you couldn't see the person who was going to bump into you, kick you in the face, or attempt to sit on you as they can't see either. At least you could react, make it known that you're here. Now and then, the latch to the stairs would open, and another boy would hobble down the stairs. Everyone would gaze towards it, as it let in some of the moonlight, briefly allowing you to look around the room, to see how close you were to the others. It was in one of these moments of brief light that I saw how close one boy was to the right of me. I didn't get a chance to look at his face properly, but we did see each other. I could hear him inching closer towards me, his shoulder nudging mine. How long have you been here? Said the boy, his voice shallow. But he wasn't scared, and I didn't think he was shy as he approached me, and not the other way around. I don't know how long it's been, but I got here today, I replied. I didn't try to look at him. I didn't want to start talking, to make friends. I wished I was alone. Ah, it feels like I've been here for a few days now. They keep bringing in more and more new boys. How many more can they stuff in one small room, huh? Said the boy. Days? What do you mean days? What about food, water? Where do you know, what? Shit? Asked the boy. The corners of the room are where most go, but some do it where they're standing. It's hard to see where you're going, and some here can't speak English very well, so we can't tell them what they're doing is disgusting, or what everyone else has been shitting and pissing. I can't believe he's been here for days, and why he won't stop talking. For someone with such a low voice, he won't shut up. He went on and on about how he had been taken from his family when he had ventured too far from home and was tricked by an old woman who sold him off to these men, and that's how he ended up here. Who does that? Trusts a complete stranger with his life, or can't find his way home? He must be the same age as me. There's nowhere in our village that I could go and not find my way back home. He tells me his name is Dabari. It's like fate is laughing at him. In our village, only the most fortunate children were named Dabari, as they were born during good times. The lives were started with a blessing, and you'd think it would end with one. But not this boy. From what he's told me, it's like he's marked with bad luck. But isn't everyone here?
Thank you for listening to this rendition of Honey Eyes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!